Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. All things Middle-earth here with a video looking at some free-to-play tips for the Rise Tour. So whether you're starting a brand new account or a second account or a third account or whatever it is, I'm hoping to provide some efficiency tips for you to have a better experience playing in your season. So stay tuned. All that's coming up in just 1 second. Now, before I dive into any actual tips or things for this game, again, I'm looking at this from a very kind of statistical, analytical, whatever perspective of, is Commander A or Commander B better? Okay, go with this commander. More than anything else in this game, I'm a huge proponent of the idea that playing with commanders or people or whatever that you enjoy is of higher value than just running with whatever the current meta is. So I can sit here and tell you out of all these starting factions which commanders I think are better. But at the end of the day, if you have a favorite faction or a favorite commander, or you have a group you're playing with that's going to a certain faction, I think that should come before just looking at what is like the most meta commander that you can use starting out. That being said, if you're watching this video, you're probably someone who likes to look up videos and watch and have the best foot forward. You like to put in some research and some time. I'm right there with you. That's why I do these things, because that's the kind of person I am. So just want to preface everything I say with, I would pick a good group and a good community, or just my favorite things over what is the most effective or like the best commanders in the game, if that makes sense. But all that kind of disclaimer out of the way, we're going to go ahead and jump right into the starting factions, which one I think give you the best commanders to start out with. And for the evil side, it's going to be either Rune or Mordor. Rune and Mordor are going to start with Khaldun and Gorbag, which I think are a step above Agzok and Ukthak personally, and I don't think many people would argue that point with me. They think there's a pretty clear difference. For evil, it's one set of two or the other set, so it's a bit easier to choose that, in my opinion. So I would say play with Mordor or play with Rune if you're looking at this from purely a which commanders do I start with that are better type of lens. And again, if you want to take it even further, usually Mordor is a more active faction than Rune. So if you want to have a better shot at having an active group in your faction, I'd probably select Mordor if I didn't know, or if I was starting all over by myself. I would probably look at starting with Mordor. For the good side, it's a little bit different. My suggestion is going to be Gondor or Erebor. They're going to start with Faramir and Dwalin, who I think are good commanders. I do think Faramir scales better as his respect gets higher. This isn't really going to be a conversation about high respect, because if this is a free-to-play or a very light spinner guide, you might not get to that point for a long time, so it's not really worth discussing too much. But I would look at going with Gondor or Erebor. In between those two, I'd probably pick Erebor, because I do see that as a more active faction for the most part. Again, there are always going to be those seasons where there's a big group that joins up with Isengard or plays with Rune or whatever it is. But for the most part, I feel like if I was playing good, I would pick Erebor. If I was playing evil, I would go with Mordor. Just looking at what commanders you start with, what location you start in, and the likelihood that you're going to have an active group in those areas. For the good side, it can be a bit more flexible between Erebor and Gondor. I do think some fantastic commanders like Eowyn or Haldir are available playing in Rohan and Lothlorien, but my suggestion is going to be for Erebor, although I do feel like you can be more flexible with the good factions. Before I start out, I want to say I'm planning to start a free-to-play good and evil account at some point in the future, so I can continue testing these tips and making sure we're figuring out what's the most effective things that we can do, which commanders perform the best in the early game, all that good stuff. So if you're interested in seeing that live on stream or video updates of progress on a free-to-play account, be sure to like this video and let me know down in the comments that it's something you're interested in seeing. But starting out, I wanted to point out a few areas in the game. If you are brand new to the game, or maybe it's been a while since you've played, there are quite a few things you can do as a free-to-play player, especially early in the game, to get extra Mathams, to get gems, which are of huge value, especially when you're not spending money. The first major one is going to be logging in every day. And maybe if you play this game a lot and you do log in several times a day, this seems like a no-brainer. But if this is your first day, you're just checking it out, the first 7 days, you get some really, really good stuff for just logging in. We're talking lots of gems. We're talking gear. Again, here at the 7th day, you get a guaranteed piece of purple gear, which is very, very good. You get Mathams, you get gems, you get respect items, all that good stuff. So just logging in for 7 days is going to give you a fantastic boost in the items and the resources, the gems and Mathams that you have moving forward with your account. The next thing I want to look at is the season pass. Even if you're free to play and you don't buy the premium tier, you get some fantastic gear here as well. I did the math, and I believe if you go through and do every weekly challenge, all the free ones at least, I believe you get 9 tiers unlocked, which would get you to this point. Again, it's around that area, but that's going to get you a couple hundred gems. You're going to get a Matham. You're going to get a Superior Hauberk, which is actually one of the best gear pieces in the game with the right effect. So that's a very, very good item there. Even if you're a light spender and like the season pass is one of the only things that you do, that would personally be my, if I were to buy one thing, it would probably be the season pass, because you do just get some more gear right off the bat. Whenever you do get the season pass, you start at level 10 as well. So you do get a decent boost to right here where you're getting some very good stuff. So not saying you have to, but again, season pass, making sure you're doing those weekly challenges. Just check these things out because a lot of them get done on their own, but sometimes depending on how you play, you might forget about one. So check these out. Make sure you're doing them every single week because you just get more free stuff. One other thing you can do is the official community pages. There are 4 different pages. These give you 100 gems each. You don't even have to sign up or like these pages or join the Discord or subscribe to the YouTube. All you have to do is click the button. It's going to open another tab, close the tab, come back to Rise to War, and you're going to have that done. So that's 400 more gems. You can spend that on a Matham. You can spend it on a half price Matham for 2 days. You can do whatever you want with it. But between that and the other things we talked about, you're going to have a good amount of Mathams, a good amount of gems, and some gear starting out right out the gate before you've even started playing the game for real. The next thing I want to talk about is which Matham chests you should open from starting out in the game. And it may not be obvious for everyone because, again, if you're not familiar with the game, you may not know you can look at stuff like this. But if you go to the chests, you can click on the chest and see the different percentages for drops for all these chests. So you can see for a full invite where you unlock someone completely, for gear and for respect items, which you give 2 commanders to then unlock them. There are actually different percentages between the two. So if we look here at the rare treasures, this could be for good or evil. You can see that, for example, the exquisite equipment, the purple, is a 10% chance and flawless is 2.3. Then we go to the Shadows Arise chest, and we have 14% for exquisite and 5% for flawless. So the only difference between these chests are every percentage is higher in the Shadows Arise or the Fellowship of the Ring if you're playing as good and you have the Gandalf chest. The only thing that's different is there are no tier 3 invites available. So you have a 3% chance and a 1% chance for a full pull. At the rare treasures, you have less of a percent chance, but you do include the tier 3. But this is a 1 in 1,000 pull. So I would suggest 10 times out of 10, do Shadows Arise or Fellowship of the Ring first. Get your Lurts or your Gandalf the Grey unlocked. They're going to be fantastic commanders for you. And I think you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck doing this. I mean, yes, there are those players that open the rare treasures and they pull Witch King. That's amazing. But it is seriously 1 in 1,000, if not more. It's ridiculous how few and far between that happens. You do get a free pull every day from these chests. So, hey, maybe you'll get the crazy luck. But I would say go with the Shadows Arise or the Fellowship of the Ring chest. Make sure you get your Lurts or your Gandalf the Grey unlocked before you do anything else. And lastly, in that same vein, there is a wish list with the rare treasures, the normal chest. You're going to want to make sure to set that up as well. Although you'll be pulling out of the Shadows Arise chest first, I would definitely say set up the rare treasures with the wish list because you do get your free chest there, and you can get your half-priced 200 gem chest there, which would not be a bad thing to do. So you open that chest twice a day, technically. Everything else, all your Mathams go into Shadows Arise. But with the rare treasures, you want to pull up the wish list here, and we're going to cover the specific commanders in just a second. But I would say the first thing you want to do is put the Dark Emblem that's going to go towards Grima, which we're going to talk about in just a second. You want to put the Unstable Oil, which is going to go towards Lurts, which we're going to also talk about in 1 second. The tier 3 items are a little bit less important because, especially free-to-play or light spender, it's probably going to be a while before you not only get a tier 3, but then get them at respect. That's going to be viable. But I would say looking at some of the better ones like Witch King, Sauron, and then maybe someone like Black Serpent or Kieran would be a good third option. You can also put a second option for the tier 2 item, which I would probably go with someone like Gothmog. But again, these don't guarantee you pull these items. It just gives you a better chance at getting them. So taking out a little bit of the RNG is nice, but there's still a chance you're going to get other stuff in there. But that's how I would set up that wish list for the evil side. Now for the good side, we're going to do the Pipeweed, which is going to go towards Dwalin. We're going to do the Old Wynyards for Gandalf the Grey. And I'm going to suggest the Secret Intel for Theoden and Éomer, both fantastic commanders. There are a lot of good options for tier 2 good commanders as well, so there's probably a lot you could go here. But I think this is a good option for that second piece. And then for the tier 3s, I'm going to suggest the High King of the Noldor's Banner for Gil-galad, the Ithilien Coin for Dane, and then the White Robe Cloth for Gandalf the White. Now that we've covered some early game tips and things that you can do to make sure you get some extra gems, some extra Mathams, you actually start pulling that stuff and you're starting to unlock or work towards unlocking commanders. Let's talk really quickly about the commanders that you're going to focus on in the early game. Starting out, we're going to look at Dwalin. You're going to start with Dwalin if you started with Erebor or Gondor. If you started with someone else, you won't have him yet, so you can work at unlocking him. But if you did start with him, you're going to keep getting those items from him until you get to Respect level 3 and unlock the Durance Blood Tree, at which point you'll be able to run him at his most optimal level. He does get better with higher Respect. There's a little bit more he can do, but Respect 3 is all you need to have his best usage. and you're going to really simply put run the Experienced Warrior tree with the Durance Blood tree, completely maxed out. Again, if you are able to impart wisdom, which is a feature we can talk about in a future video, to get some extra skill points, you can do that. But for the most part, just focus on Experienced Warrior and Durance Blood. Those trees work really well together. And you want to put the tankiest units you have with Dwalin, because he's the one doing all the damage. So you want your troops to last as long as possible, because your damage scales down as you lose troops in your army. So you want to have the most tanky troops you can, so you lose the least amount, and Dwalin continues to do more damage. So that is the first commander we're going to look at. For the evil side, I'm going to suggest Grima as a free-to-play option for a commander to start out with. Now, none of the factions start with Grima, unfortunately, so he will be one you have to put on your wish list and give all the items to him to unlock him first. But as soon as you do unlock him, he's going to have great viability at R1, and he has several builds at R1, 2, and 3. Again, I'll have his spreadsheet linked down below if you're curious on what to do with him. But very simply put, you're going to max out the second in command tree. You're going to make sure you have at least 2 points into Wormtongue and 1 point into Master of Mischief to get the madness against enemy commanders and enemy troops. But those two there are going to do fantastic for him. The troop comp for Grima is a little bit less important because you're trying to get the enemy to work against themselves. So ideally look at the best variety of tanky units with damage dealers behind them. The highest tier you have, if you have tier 2s or tier 3s and they're upgraded their skills, I would go with those. But it's pretty hard to go wrong with Grima. He's a fantastic commander at low respect with very basic gear. He is going to do a fantastic job. Next up for the good side is a tier 2 commander. This is going to be Gandalf the Grey. Now, the two commanders I'm going to suggest for good and evil are actually the ones featured in the chest that you start out with in Season 1. And that is a coincidence. I didn't do that on purpose, but I do think they're going to be some of the better tier 2 options to focus on. Gandalf the Grey is going to have viability right out the gate as soon as you unlock him, whether you full pull him, whether you are getting items from chest, or you open the Fellowship Ring chest enough to hard unlock him. He's going to have great viability. You're going to want to max out the Mithrandir tier and the Grey tier, which is going to be all you have available at that point. But you're going to start with Mithrandir and go to Convener, which is going to give your troops a chance to attack twice in the first 2 rounds. And then you're going to go into the Grey. 1 point in a skill like Blindside gives you a stun after round 2. And so on and so forth. And as you build his respect, again, there are quite a few build options for him. So if you want to see more about him in a future video, let me know down below. But Gandalf the Grey is a fantastic commander. Even at respect 0, he's going to kick some serious butt. And the last commander we're going to look at is going to be Lurtz. This is going to be for the evil side, obviously. Lurtz is similar to Dwalin in that he is a damage-dealing commander, and he is needed at respect 3. So he is, again, one you're not going to start out having, but if you open your 50 Shadows Arise chests and you have him on your wish list, there's a good chance that you're going to get him there by the time you unlock him. So you're going to run the entire Pursuer tree and Uruk-hai Firstborn, and you're going to run, again, the tankiest troops you can with him because you want him to stick around and be able to do as much damage as possible. The higher command you have, the less your damage is going to scale down. So the tankiest unit you have available for yourself in your situation is going to be just fine with Lurtz. One more note on the evil side, sort of an honorable mention, would be Khaldun. Khaldun is a starting commander for Rune and Mordor, like we mentioned, so you're going to start out with him, but he is, for his most viable use, needed at respect 5. So what I would personally do is I would get Grima unlocked, and once I have Grima unlocked, I would start giving respect items and switch my wishlist item to Khaldun to get him to R5, since Grima sees great use at R0 or R1, whereas Khaldun really sees a bump when he gets to R5. So again, you could and you should take Grima to higher respects. There's a lot you can do with him, but I would say get him unlocked first, switch to Khaldun, get him to R5, and then look back at Grima at a later time if you'd like to. But that would be something I want to point out for the evil side there. And there you have it. There is a very quick free-to-play tips starting guide. Again, this is just scratching the surface a little bit. Some starting commanders ideas, some starting faction ideas, some things you should not forget to do when you're starting out in your season. But if you do want to see more videos like this one, or you do want to see me start a free-to-play evil and good account to test out some of these methods, be sure to like this video. Let me know down below what you would like to see me try. And if you have any ideas or tips or suggestions that you think that I missed or should be covered in a very early game free-to-play guide, let me know down below as well. But that is going to do it for me in this one, and I'll see you all in a future video.